Well, head of programs at Media Monitoring Africa, Thandi Smith, joins us now via video link to weigh in on this particular case. A very good afternoon to you, Thandi, and thank you so much for your time. So let's look at then what is before us. The MK Party in court papers arguing that the term is misleading and unconstitutional. Of course, that's the Government of National Unity term. Now, the party believes that the SABC should not be parroting what the current government terms as the GNU. Now, the SABC, of course, on the other hand, is arguing in the main that this is nothing but political debate. I mean, how do you then view this particular matter where a political party is taking the public broadcaster to court for the use of a term that's coined by the current 7th administration following, of course, the watershed May 2024 election?
Yeah, you know, what a day, what a case. There are a couple of issues that sort of present themselves with the case that is in court at the moment. And you know, the first initial reaction is around the process and around the fact that if there are any issues with media, with journalists, there are certain processes that get followed that haven't been followed in this case, and that's including going to using the appropriate channels and laying complaints with the SABC itself or with the BCCSA. We have self-regulatory, co-regulatory mechanism where complaints such as these are dealt with, and for a political party to go straight to court for this sort of matter, you start asking questions about where their agenda around going straight to court is, you know, or what has prompted going directly to court. You know, because we've got these strong complaints mechanisms within our media industry, there's a reason that we have complaints processes and procedures, and you know, sort of linked to that. This case is against what is most certainly an editorial decision-making process, and so it would be appropriate to follow correct complaints procedures. There's a reason that we've set up these, or that those complaints procedures have been set up. You know, going directly to court over an editorial matter comes with high legal fees, comes with massive costs to the media in question, or in this case, the broadcaster, as well as an element around the impact it has on freedom of expression of journalists and editorial teams. You know, if journalists had to sort of sit back and think that every time that there was an editorial decision or what they said would get challenged straight away in court, you know, that would impact a level of freedom of expression and ultimately lead to a sort of air of self-censorship. So there's those kinds of aspects to consider as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised that, because that was going to be my next question. I mean, there have been several questions raised in this matter about editorial interference, etc., notwithstanding, of course, the public mandate of the public broadcaster, the SABC. I mean, why take it to court when there are, as you say, so many other processes and systems that should have been, in a way, considered here? But let's talk then about what it actually means, just from a media freedom perspective. What are the broader implications, do you think, here, in as far as targeting journalists or media, especially in this country, as some have been saying, but also the SABC and not other media that have also been referencing it as the Government of National Unity?
Yeah, you know, as I mentioned, the big issue around the implications for freedom of expression and media freedom, and terms such as the GNU being used, you know, by the SABC and various media. But, you know, again, going back to the fact of, or the point of the editorial decision making in this case. And, you know, you raised an interesting point around the SABC specifically, and it is, you know, it is true that the SABC is held to a higher standard as the public broadcaster. But that doesn't mean that, when it comes to editorial decision-making or terms being used, political terms being used, that it should be a direct legal challenge. Again, going back to the correct complaints procedures. A good example in this case would be, a story around the arrest that was made a week or two ago about the man in Midrand with in possession of child sexual abuse material. Yeah. Media, including the SABC, have called it child pornography, which is, it's an incorrect term, and we as MMA, we're not going, it's not something you go straight to court about. You look at, education and training models and, engagement, and there are other ways of, asserting what are correct terms, and if there are really issues. So court should be an absolute last resort once other processes have been followed, and that clearly is not the case with this specific instance. And again, it goes back to what's really the agenda behind going straight to court, which creates an air of intimidation for journalists and is a blow to freedom of expression and media freedom generally.
Yeah, Thandi, in as far as this matter is concerned, irrespective of which way the court decides, what would you say the broader implications for the SABC are, given that over the years, the public broadcaster has done a lot of work to ensure its editorial autonomy and independence?
Yeah, we know that the SABC has gone through years of battles and, instances where there have been particular issues with editorial interference, but we also know how far SABC has come in the last few years around ensuring a fairness and independence in its coverage. In our analysis and our research of the monitoring of the coverage of elections, SABC came out as being unbelievably fair and accurate in their reporting of elections. And so again, it is a blow to have a case like this against the SABC in relation to fairness and independence. And it will be interesting to see what the court rules, what the outcome of this case is. But again, it is, I think it is a blow to SABC to have to go directly to court and not deal with the appropriate channels and be afforded an opportunity to deal with a complaint such as this in the correct processes.